Vehicle, Type 211 pre-facelift, the customer has complained of a noise while steering coming from the engine space. With movement of the steering wheel, we check the customer complaints. In our example, the noises are clearly discernible. Due to the noises from the engine space, we assume that the problem is in the area of the power steering pump. We check the steering gear for leaks. To find out whether the vehicle is losing fluid, first check the fluid level in the container. We can see quite clearly, the fluid container is empty. Important: if the fluid container is empty, it is wrong to simply refill this with fluid. You must search for the reason of the fluid loss to avoid additional damage. Pay attention while working on the steering gear to extreme cleanliness, so that no dirt particles get into the fluid container. The fluid container must be closed. The fluid loss in our vehicle is clear. We conclude from this that leaks exist and still must be localized, however. Next, find out if there's an external leak in the area of the steering pump. To find external leaks, do a visual check to see where the fluid has run out. Also check the underside of the vehicle. Also here do a visual check for leaks, for example, the hydraulic hoses. When you've taken off the paneling under the vehicle, inspect the whole steering system. Examine the hoses for leaks. Also check the connections of the hoses in the steering gear and in the oil cooler. In our example, no external leak was found. So what's causing the noises? To better illustrate, we show you 3 possible case examples in 3 different models. In our first example, we check the steering gear for external leaks. Check in the order shown here the pipelines and connections of the steering gear. In our example, no external fluid loss is visible. With leaks in the lateral sealing rings, the fluid gathers in the sleeves. Nevertheless, an exterior leak is not often visible here. If we check for internal leak, in which we open the lateral sleeves, here should be no fluid in the sleeves. Should fluid be found, the steering gear must be renewed. In our second example, we ascertain an external leak in the control head, which is noticeable by the drop buildup. In this case, the steering gear must also be renewed. By the way, if the PML valve leaks in the control head casing, the valve can be renewed separately. And another tip, if the connections of the internal lines are leaking, the sealing rings, or as the case may be, the complete internal lines must be renewed. What must be renewed depends on the installed steering gear variation. In our third example, we see grease under the dust cap in the control head casing. Nevertheless, this is not a complaint, because the steering gear, in spite of excessive grease, is fully functional. In this case, the steering gear need not have been removed.